What if the answers we seek aren't found in one world, but in the space between them? Between realms and reason is where quantum thought meets spiritual insight, where science explores mystery and consciousness finds voice. From galactic intelligence to quantum biology, ancient wisdom to future science. Join host Sandie Sedgbeer as she speaks with physicists, filmmakers, mystics, researchers, and revolutionaries. Those who walk the edge of known reality and those who dare to question what lies beyond. This is Between Realms and Reason, bridging the inner and outer cosmos, one conversation at a time. Here's your host, Sandie Sedgbeer.
Hello and welcome to Between Realms and Reason, where quantum thought meets spiritual insight. With me today is a guest whose journey spans the world of classical music, personal transformation, and vibrational medicine. A renowned concert pianist, opera singer, and professor turned pioneering sound healer, Jeralyn Glass bridges the frequencies of science and soul. When her life was irrevocably changed by profound personal loss, her grief led her to a powerful new path that channels the intelligence of crystal sound and sacred frequencies to support emotional healing, DNA recalibration, and expanded consciousness. Jeralyn Glass joins me today to discuss how sound frequencies connect to quantum healing, how intention activates matter, and why vibrational medicine may hold the key to our collective evolution. Jeralyn Glass, welcome.
Thank you so much, Sandie. I'm very excited to be here with you.
I'm so excited to have you. So you said that the first time you heard the sound of a crystal alchemy bowl, it shook you to the core. Tell us about that moment and what it felt like, because you've been steeped in sound and music, your entire life.
This is true. I was living in Europe at the time. I was enjoying a wonderful career as a singer throughout Europe, and I would use the Tibetan, the Himalayan singing bowls, the metal bowls. I would use those. I'd put one on my belly, like once we did a tour to Japan of Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, and I would take those bowls with me and I'd put them on my belly, and I would meditate and hum and tone to the sound of those bowls. So I knew singing bowls. I loved them. But I was traveling with my mom, actually in Arizona, and there was a talk being given on crystal alchemy singing bowls. And so Mom and I went, and I was like, Mom, I have to get some of these. When I first heard the sound, it was pristine, it was exquisite, it was music, it was multi-dimensional music, and it was a sound, Sandie, that I felt that I knew. There was something so familiar about that sound. And again, I had played with bowls for years, but crystal sound has a whole different quality than metal. So yeah.
I have to wonder whether you hear sound, because you've been steeped in it, do you hear sound differently than I might hear sound?
Probably.
It would be wonderful to be inside your ears.
No one ever said that, but yes, I mean, you learn, you learn that you refine your hearing so much by being, especially in classical music, but any kind of music where you're really pointed to collaborate with others and to make sure you're in tune and to make sure you're rhythmically correct, etc., that your ear just gets very refined. And so that moment when I heard that sound, it was like, it like awakened something in me, a memory of something ancient, of something that you feel when you hear great music. There's like a beauty that is so soothing to your soul. It was that kind of experience.
That frequency of that sound must be reverberating in your body and waking up.
Yeah.
Something, I would think. Your cells, every cell responds, doesn't it?
We talk about that because the bowls are made of pure quartz and our body has quartz-like structure to it, our blood, our bones, as you know, there was famous studies done in England. there's a way that the human system receives the sound in a different way than other instruments. For example, the harp, which is used very much in music therapy, is a beautiful instrument, the strings. But there is something about that crystalline sound that penetrates in a different way. That's all I can say. And everybody hears differently, but especially, as you said, being a musician where you just have to finely tune your human instrument. So the way that you listen to sound is definitely different. It's at a very precise, intimate level.
Back then, did you have knowledge of the science of sound?
Back then, you mean when I was first playing the bowls?
Yeah.
No. I mean, at that point in time, I knew that music was magic. That I knew because, you imagine first I started on Broadway in My Fair Lady with Rex Harrison. So we were mic'd in that show. There was mics for everybody. But in the classical field, you were in big theaters, sometimes 3,000 seat theaters with no amplification. So I learned as a singer that my body was my instrument. I needed to be able to express a full amount of sound coming through these two tiny vocal cords, without straining, right? So I knew the power of music, the power of the human voice, but really to talk really scientifically, no. I just loved being this instrument.
What do you think it is about sound versus words, that has the power to just awaken something so deep within us?
Gosh, that's a really big question for me because I've done sung things like vocalises. For example, the Rachmaninoff has a beautiful vocalise, or there's a beautiful vocalise by Hector Villa-Lobos, the Bachianas Brasileiras. There's something that happens when it's just pure sound, but at the same time, how do I say that to you? Pure sound goes beyond words. Pure sound takes us, I always say, into the place of the ineffable. There's no words for that. So in my own personal story, when I lost my child, my only child, my son, I started going to talk therapy and it was helpful. But there came a point where it was like, you can't talk about grief. You can't talk your way through it to healing. You had to be able to feel it. And there was a point where it was just like, Jeralyn, sometimes I was going 6 hours a week to just try to talk through what happened. You're in shock. But what I recognized is that what my singing teacher used to say to me, nothing vibrates there. Like you can't be in your head. It doesn't vibrate. Your body vibrates. You are a vibrating string. You're a vibrating instrument. So the more I would talk about it, it soothed for sure, but it wasn't getting to the core of me actually feeling the grief. So I feel like sound and frequency has the ability to move us in this place beyond words. And yet, as you know as well as I, there's sound and songs that you love the words, fly me to the moon or whatever, songs that you love. And those words, the lyrics activate you, and the lyrics bring you something very magical and special, or activate a memory or a vision. But there's something about pure sound that does something different. It does something different.
I read many years ago that if you hear a sound, hear somebody singing, and the hair stands up in the back of your neck, that they are singing your note. Now, I don't know how true that is, but I remember hearing somebody singing from Les Mis, the first, the first opening of Les Mis, and everything in my body stood on end. Yeah. And I thought, oh my God, what is that? Why that person's voice and not somebody else's?
I mean, that's also such a great question, Sandie. I mean, I wouldn't say that it's your tone necessarily, because there's a lot of conversation about, okay, my favorite note is G, or my favorite note is a B flat, or whatever that is. I feel like what happens when you get the goosebumps, when you get this, is that it's so many different subtle levels that are working together. It's the timbre and of that person's voice. It's the energy behind it. It's their intention. It's the power of the music. And then it meets you in a certain place where you're like, I don't know how you would pinpoint that, because sometimes you may hear the same thing and, does it give you the same reaction every time? It may
Yes.
be also where we're at in that moment in time, that we're
Yeah.
open to that.
I mean, there are so many interesting aspects to sound. You know, I studied astrology for many years, and I came across a book many years ago, a small book, in which a man was talking about somebody who said, "Give me your chart and I will play it for you." And I thought, well, how could you possibly play somebody's chart? But then I remembered that I love Holst's Planet Suite and I love Jupiter. And then I thought, Jupiter is right at the top of my chart and it is very significant in my chart. I wonder if there is a connection there. And of course, I never got the answer to that one. But, when you think about sound, it's everything. It's everything.
From all the different religions that talk about, in the beginning was the word, in the beginning was the sound. Sound was creation, sound was God. I mean, in so many different cultures, I write a little bit about that in my book, quoting from Jonathan Goldman. So sound and creation and presence and God and spirituality has always been associated, I think.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's that sound, they say, brings matter into form.
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
And
So you were drawn to the bowls. I mean, almost as if someone was pushing you, towards them. And how did you tune into them? How did you know which ones wanted to come home with you?
I mean, I'd say the first decision was, they were actually chosen for me. I didn't choose my first bowls, and I realized with time, after I had the 7 bowls and then started this whole process with them, I realized how important it is that you do choose, that you are a part of it, because some of the bowls never felt all the way right to me. And so what I do in my professional life is I help people curate sets. And it's wonderful to have like a consultation, and I explore, I ask many different questions, and then I play different sounds, and people have a response or they don't. I mean, it's interesting because, okay, if we want to get really, into it now, like, when you work with the crystal bowls, there's 3 main tunings. Okay, so you can choose a tuning of, if you're a musician, I work with plenty of musicians, then the tuning of the bowls needs to be 440 hertz. That's the tuning of music today. There are some, like Baroque orchestras, that tune to 432 hertz, and then there's another tuning that people enjoy, which is called 528 hertz. So that's kind of the first thing, is which tuning do you like? Because if we're working with bowls, they all have to be harmonic. They all have to be tuned to one another. You don't want any of the different instruments to sound out of tune. So that's one aspect. Do you like 432 hertz? Like, I remember as a singer, I sang actually with the Cologne Baroque Orchestra when I was singing at the Zurich Opera, and everything was tuned down. So it was tuned to 432 hertz, and that's in reference to the A note. So in 440, the A note is tuned to 440, or in 432, it's the A note tuned to 432. And I just remember how easy it was. It was lower, everything was lower. So an F note felt, it just was lower to sing. So that's one of the first questions, is what feels good to you? So when you were talking about the, hair standing on end, it's like, oh, there's like a thrill, there's like an excitement, there's like a memory of, oh my gosh, it's ecstatic, it's exquisite, it feels so beautiful to me. What is it that, is there a particular tuning that you like? That's one of the questions that we explore. And then, are there particular notes or combination of notes that you like? And I have the luxury of getting to play with all the notes in all different kinds of octaves. But when someone's choosing a set for themselves or a particular bowl to play and just work with meditation, or however they're going to work with sound, it's really coming back to what you said so beautifully. What feels good to you? What gives you that spark? And it's very individual.
When you discovered the bowls, Did that make any difference to your career as an opera singer? I mean, did it enhance something or expand something, or were they just two separate things?
No, I mean, I think because they were when I first purchased this first seven bowls, they were instruments to me. I didn't know really about sound healing. Again, I knew that music was my personal medicine, but to talk about it then as I would talk about it now, I'm two different people, right? But I tell a story in my book about doing a jump in, meaning a colleague got sick and I was called at the last minute to sing for them and sing the concert. And it was New Year's Eve. It was quite spectacular, a very, important concert of the year. And I didn't have a chance to rehearse with the conductor. And I played my bowls that morning. I warmed myself up. I used my bowls. I used myself to use the sound to really help ground me. And when you go into that kind of situation, it's like an athlete getting ready to, play the game. You don't know really what's going to happen. So what's called for is your personal intention and the power of your presence, and just to be able to flow with whatever comes in the moment. So the bowls were very important for me in grounding me in that particular instance. And otherwise, I was playing them, sharing them with my students, sharing them with my son, sharing them in. I had created a kids foundation, and I would use them. The kids would love to play with them. So they were more like a beautiful, unusual instrument.
Your son traveled all over the world with you, so music was obviously, a huge part of his life. Did he have, the same feeling that you did for the bowls?
He loved the bowls. I mean,
Yeah.
when he was little, he was 7 when I brought them back home, and he'd always say, "Mommy, mommy, bring me to bed with my sound blanket." And he would love. I put one bowl on his belly, and he'd go, "Ah, I love my tummy tickles." So he loved the bowls, and he had a very particular experience with them when he was 13. He was in a national singing contest in Germany where we were living and where he was born, and his voice changed. He made it to the semifinals, and a week before the semifinal audition, his voice dropped. And I had never, I'm also a professor of singing, I had never at that time taken a young man through their voice change. So I asked some of my colleagues, and they were like, yeah, as long as he can keep his voice open and everything is relaxed and easy for him, and he's okay with it. He can sing through the voice change. So what we did was we used the bowls, and he chose a little G note bowl, which G, again, I wasn't really aware of this then, and in afterthought, it was like, this is profound. The G is for the throat chakra, and the alchemy of that bowl was citrine, and citrine is about your personal power, your confidence, your strength of will, your self-esteem. That's the bowl he chose, Sandie. So, I mean, on some level, he knew what he was doing. And we would play that bowl every day during that week. And I would just have him do things like yawn, ah, and just play with his range because it was shifting. The larynx gets 5 times in size and the voice begins to drop. And he sailed through his program and said, "Hello, my name is Dylan, and since 1 week, I'm no longer a soprano." So he made a joke, and I was just like, I can't believe my boy is so steeped in confidence. And really, what we did was just easy vocal exercises, and then he played the bowls and sang to them. So he had a very profound experience with the bowls at a quite a vulnerable point in his life, which was, very interesting. So they were a familiar instrument to him. He played the piano, he played the guitar, he loved to sing. And yeah, he got to travel all throughout Europe with me when I was performing, Italy and France and Belgium and Holland and all over Germany and et cetera, et cetera. So he, they touched him, I think, as a young person very deeply.
I want to know what inspired you to write your book, Sacred Vibrations, The Transformative Power of Crystalline Sound and Music. What was the moment that you decided, I'm going to write this book?
I think I felt that there was life experience and a story there that needed to be shared, and just started jotting down a structure and an idea. This is the book, and um, on the cover is this image from the cymoscope, which is an instrument by John Stuart Reid. He's a British acoustic scientist, and it shows what sound looks like made visible. So this happened to be a beautiful F note, which F is the note of the heart in the Western system. And it made 22 of those little antinodes. And my son, whose name is Dylan, he was born in Germany at 2222. So it was like there were so many coincidences and communications and synchronicities and things that were happening in my life as I walked through the process of grief that I just felt inspired to start writing, never having any idea where it was going to go, you know. And then the whole story is wild when I think about it. In the fall, the year before I started the book in the fall, he was like, "Mom, we got to make a card deck." And I'm like, "Son, I'm," because he communicates with me. He's like, I'm like, "Son, I'm busy." And he's like, "Mom, we need to make an oracle deck," which we ended up making. This is the oracle deck where you can put your phone on the QR code on the card, and then you hear the sound of the bowls. And it's done with this, for example, this is a photograph that he took with beautiful watercolor and photography and sacred geometry. So I said to him, "I'm busy," you know, and he quieted down. And then a couple months later in December, he said, "Mom, you have to make the card deck now." And he was a big kid. He was 6'3" and 230 pounds. He was a football player, a ski racer, a track star. So I listened. I just said, "Okay." We prepared everything, created this card deck. It was 48 cards, and I did all the bowl recordings actually on Christmas Eve. And 2 weeks later, I was sitting in a Zoom call with the head of Hay House, who offered me a contract for the book and for the cards. So, I feel like all of this also was guided because we had thought about, okay, we can self-produce the cards, and we started to look, and it was quite expensive and not an easy process to do. And then here was this gift, just handed down, this gift of 2 contracts with a publishing company that I just adore, and I had been reading their books for years. So it was just like what happened with him and the bowls, and "Hello, my name is Dylan," and "Since you make I'm no longer soprano," just like this joy and this really strong presence. I felt like he guided that also to happen because the miracles and the communications and the things where you just go, you can't make this stuff up. You cannot make this stuff up. You can't. It was like, I think that needs to be shared with a bigger audience. And after he died, there were moments where I just thought, I can't go on. I can't get out of bed. I'm done. I'm done. And I remember one of them, it was so bad. I called my mom, and she knew immediately where I was. And she said, "If you're thinking of killing yourself, I'll kill you first." And it was just like, "Oh God, okay, Mom, I'm sorry." Like, I mean, she sobered me up so, and she's little. She's like 130 pounds and 5'3". And it was just like, she sobered me. I never got that depressed and that down since that moment. But I recognized if I don't do something to turn the grief, I'll never get out of my bed. And so I made a phone call and started volunteering for cancer patients and their families. And, I had never played sound bass. I had played the bowls that I had, right? But I studied, I put together like a form of meditation, and they loved it. And that sort of began this whole world of, how does sound, like what you asked earlier, why does the pure sound of the bowls help me quiet my mind, drop in my body, and suddenly I'm feeling the depth of, in my case, the grief that I couldn't feel through talking about it. But suddenly I was able to weep and keen and groan and just like, I'm going to just say it like this, sorry, just like vomit out the intensity of feelings that you don't know how to put in words. And then I began to see there's light coming in my eyes. There's something happening here. The sound is helping me reach deep into those pockets where we tuck away things because we say, no, 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 too much to feel. Oh, that's traumatic. No, no, no. And you tuck it away, but it's festering in your body. It's blocking your energy flow in your body. And the sound, the pure sound of the crystalline bowls, perhaps as because what I said to you earlier, like our bone structure, our blood has crystal and matter to it. So they help me to just feel stuff that I didn't want to feel. And suddenly it was okay. And what I experienced when I played for the cancer patients was there was nothing in that room, Sandie, except for love. And it was like, wait, this is crazy what's happening. Like it was palpable for all of us. And as a young singer, I'd always had a quote that was near to my heart that said, by Sidney Lanier, that said, "Music is love in search of a word." But there I was feeling that these crystal bowls are connecting me heart to heart with the cancer patients. It's beyond what I've ever experienced in music. It's beyond that. It's so deep and without words and so profound and so connected to God and however you want to say it. It's the ineffable. That's what was happening for me as I started playing the bowls publicly and playing them for people, and then people would express what they were feeling, and it just expanded more and more, and I recognized I was healing and healing was happening for others. And it was like, this is mind-blowing.
It is mind-blowing. I mean, Bessel van der Kolk's book, The Body Keeps the Score, and when I think about sound and its ability to, resonate through your body, those shivers that you feel, it's like they are moving something within you. I love that quote you said about music. Someone once told me that grief is love with nowhere to land. I think if you put those two together, those two sayings, you've got a wonderful remedy, if you like, for people. That music should be something that we understand is part of, we can use it as part of the grieving process to move energy through our body.
I think when you really think about, because 3 different medical doctors asked me, would I like to take antidepressants? And I was just, that was the farthest thing from my mind. I didn't know how to function every day. Like you're in shock, right? It's like, it's not your life. It's not your child. It's not how things are supposed to go, right? But I recognize, no, if I do that, it'll numb me and I'll never be able to meet and befriend and embrace grief. And some part of me knew I have to be able to do that. I can't mask it as much as I would like to. And my thought was, if you can give me a pill that brings him back, I'll take that right now. Give it to me right now, whatever it costs, but something that would damper the depth of the feelings. I knew that was not my way. For many people that is a way, but for me, I knew, as a singer and my emotions are so much a part of what I do in my profession, it wasn't the way to go. And music really enabled this safe container. It enabled this nurturing nest where suddenly you could just collapse and just weep for hours, and the music would play on and it was holding me, or I could sit with the bowls and just play them and then start really to weep in a way that nothing else got me to that place, right? And just thinking about like beautiful pieces of music that you love and the power, like for example, so when I was pregnant with my son, I sang a series of performances of the Ninth Symphony of Beethoven with da da dee da dee da 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 dee da 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 dum, with the uh, fourth movement that has that beautiful melody in it with chorus and 4 soloists. And so after my son was born, when he would cry in the car, because I had, the old car and the CD player, I'd stick that CD in and boom, he was still as a mouse. And it was like, what's going on here? And it was like he knew that music. He knew that music intimately. His mom had been practicing it and singing it because he was born, he came early. So he came actually 21 days early. And there he was, right after, like a few days after I finished the last performances. So it's very interesting. I think that was really a music medicine experience for me.
Mm. You have a relationship with Dylan still. He communicates with you. You know, I know from friends who've been in a similar position to you, whose sons have then gone on to advise them even into things and tell them things, that it is such a great gift. A bittersweet gift, but such a great gift. Do you think, do you ever think about what would you be doing now if Dylan hadn't passed?
Oh yeah, all the time. We just had Mother's Day in the US, and just yeah, all the time. And yet I've come to understand that this was our destiny, that he was supposed to go before me. And it's like, no, 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 no. I don't remember signing that soul contract. And when I talk to you and I see you again, I'm going to have a talk about it, son, because no, 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 no. But it's like there's so much laughter and joy in this communication. Of course, the mother's heart just longs for your child, and you long to be able to see your child grow up and experience what they experience in their lives. But my sister will say to me, "Do you recognize what a gift this is?" Because again, like the signs are, which is what structured the book. The signs are undeniable. You really, I couldn't make them up. And it's just like, because I'd say to my mom, and as the process really began, because he started to communicate with me the night he died, he sent this huge shooting star, and I live in LA. You don't see shooting stars in the city, but there it was, and I could hear it. And I could hear his voice, Mom, Mom, it's like we always talked about. And he was referring to childhood where I would play the bowls for him. It's like we always talked about, I'm home, I'm with God. And it's like, no, wait. Did I just hear his voice? Did I see a shooting star? Am I going nuts? And then as time went on, I'd say to my mom, like, here's this classical musician professor that's playing crystal singing bowls and talking to her son on the other side, like, Mom, I lost my marbles. I mean, like, this is just, and she'd go, no, dear. I was working with cancer patients and hospice patients at that time. She'd go, you're helping so many people. But it was like, Dylan, like, what has life become? And, I think we can think, life is planned. We do our education, we do our jobs, we do our families, whatever we each do in our lives. But life is full of surprises. Life is full of, we have to be flexible. We have to be able to bend and not break. And I thought when he died, that's it, I'm broken. And it was like, no, 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 Mom, just wait and see, and I wished, when you asked me about writing the book, like I wanted to be able to communicate, this joy that you see on my face. Like I never thought there'd be joy again in my life. It was over. But I wanted to be able to communicate what I experienced as miracles, as magical, as the power of music to transform what you think will never change. And people said to me at the beginning, you'll never get over it. So you might as well, there was just like such a doomsday. And it's like, my God, if I imagine that I'm going to be grieving him in this same way where the pain is so excruciating for the rest of my life, why bother living? Right? So it's like if people can recognize there is this bridge and music is that bridge, music can help lead us to this bridge. And so a lot of my students have experienced, whether it's a parent or a child or a sibling or a partner that they've lost, a lot of the students experience music is the connector. music is love in search of a word. So, and what did you say? And grief is love with no place to land,
Yeah.
right? So it's like these merge together, and we're like, okay, like you said, it's bittersweet, but we're alive. And there is joy, even in spite of the loss. I think that's one thing I really wanted to communicate was like, it's not doomsday. It's just life has a different quality and you will see each other again. But why not, again, as my sister said, do you know how lucky you are? Because at first my family was like, okay, what's going on with her? But it was like, look at these signs. This is communication from him. So yeah, I feel very, very blessed. I thank God every day. I connect with him every day, and yet I'm here in life and in this physical plane and dealing with all the things we deal with in our daily lives. But there's that there's that place where you know that they land in your heart and they're really embedded inside you, and that we are, kind of as you were saying at the beginning, we're part of this greater sense of consciousness, of awareness, of spirit, of energy, of matter, of intention, and that is sound vibration. And we come from that and we return to that. He's right now there, I'm here, and the bridge that keeps connecting us is music and sound.
Sacred vibrations references quantum physics, resonance, coherence. You write about how, the crystal bowls, they create sound structures, that can retune our bodies and our consciousness. I mean, you just spoke about consciousness. Tell me a little bit more about what you've learned about consciousness shifting, in the bowl.
So I am a soprano, and so I'm not the high soprano, but I had certain roles like in the Abduction from the Seraglio by Mozart. There's three high E notes. That's very, very high. It's a very high note. What, and I loved the lower notes. Like I sang a lot of Mozart. So in A Marriage of Figure, I played Susanna. She has a low A note. These are notes that are kind of extreme. What I learned is that when I play low notes in the bowls, they are deeply grounding us. And when I would play these lower frequencies, I'd feel this, whoa, this kind of real stability. And when I would play the high notes, I'd feel more this connection to, however you want to call it, the quantum, the where Dylan resides, where all unlimited possibilities are. This feeling of, oh, I am that too, right? I am made of that. I am part of that. So I think my whole music career and being a singer, so those notes were being made from me in this physical body to recognize, oh, if I'm playing high note bowls and then I'm playing medium note bowls and I'm making a chord and I'm making a musical structure, whoa, there is magic that's happening in that. So it's not just random because anyone can play bowls, and it's important for me that the sound is impeccable, that it's harmonic, that it's in tune, that I don't try to make, dissonance with a point to kind of disturb somebody. Because if someone had done that to me, I would have said, stop right now. The grief is too hard to feel when there's added dissonance for me. Someone else might say, I need that dissonance to go in there and feel it. I did not. I needed something that was a coherent musical structure. As I got more and more deeply into the bowls, they became like an orchestra that I could play as if I was playing and singing in, like, let's say, the Ninth of Beethoven in a symphony, in a piece where there was choir and orchestra and conductor and soloists. And that's how I've experienced the bowls, that they're this quantum orchestra. There's so much there's so much potential in them, and they never ever, Sandie, they never play the same twice. And that's another thing, like I learned in performing in My Fair Lady with Rex Harrison. We did over 456 shows, and each show, as a professional, you had to show up and be present. You couldn't just go through the rigmarole. I mean, it had to be alive, right? And so it's the same with the bowls. When I do my downbeat, I have to bring myself into such a presence that I'm connected to the quantum. So I'm already in that place where the high notes take me, but at the same time, I'm deeply grounded to the earth where the low notes take me. And then I'm home in my body. And then let's see what the orchestra wants to play. And every time, even if it's the same bowls, they play differently depending on who's in the audience, what the intentions are. It's so much fun. It's amazing.
Have you found that, I mean, obviously it can be a transcendent experience. Have you found that since playing the bowls, and especially since you've been so much more immersed in them and understand the science, that you have developed, skills, psychic skills, other skills that you may never have developed before?
Yeah, I mean, I love your questions. It's so fun to talk with you. I just had that experience today. So I lead a group. I have something called a members portal, actually, which was inspired by Lee Harris. Lee was like, Jeralyn, you got to create that. So where we gather once a month live and people ask questions and I share, teach, and then play a sound bath. And one of the members was telling about one of their bowls simply it broke before she was going to play. She had set it on the table and it broke. So interesting, it was an A note. So A in the Western system corresponds to the third eye. So then ensued this whole conversation about if a bowl breaks like that, it takes a hit for you. It's something that maybe you weren't able to go into. So the bowl is like going, hello, knock, knock, knock. And then she told us that she had a migraine for a week after, like an intense migraine for a week after. Well, I mean, that's where the note was of the bowl that broke. So yes, to answer your question, what began revealing was I would just know things and be able to talk into things and not have the question mark. Like it was just, how do you feel about this? Could this be so also I think as a voice teacher, as a voice professor, there was also a way of working with the students. So you had to identify who they are. I had to understand that each voice is unique. You're one in all of time. And my job as a voice professor was to help them open, free, and express and tune their instrument, right? So it's the same kind of thing. Like, yeah, it's the same thing that we refine and refine and refine, and we tune and we find that place, that very unique place that's unique in all of us.
You speak beautifully about each of us carrying a soul song. And throughout your book, you have some wonderful quotes. I was making notes of all of them because they're so right on, and they're so concise, but they say it all. And you said about this, a song the universe longs to hear. The universe, to think that the universe longs to hear my soul song and everybody's soul song. I mean, that's just such a big concept. And it must, it's almost a life-changing thing to understand and embrace that the universe wants to hear our song.
Yeah.
If all of us understood that, the world would be quite a different place.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because right when you're saying that, I mean, I'm thinking about things that we are all seeing in the world right now that we are confronted with. I'm going to just say more the negative qualities of humanity. So it's like when you say that, and I go, yeah, there's one of us in all of time. Our responsibility is to quicken inside and to express from a very grounded place the light of our soul, the light of who we are. And yet there's many, many people that we know in the world that express the darkness. So I don't know, like, I like to feel that music helps to tune us and tune us to this love and light, and I understand that that's sometimes very naive of me, but music for me brings goodness, and it brings this activation of our light and our love. For other people, it can bring this darkness, I guess. And when you talk about, like what I said, that the light of the soul and the expression of the soul in the world, I think about the light, the light of the soul, the radiance of the soul, the goodness in people, the goodness in why we're here. It's a topic that we're treading very lightly now because, and not so lightly. I just find that music is the universal language, and if we could come together playing, if I could lead meditations in politics, I could give them 2 minutes, to
Yeah.
align themselves and to find the higher intention, not
Yes.
coming from greed or ego or whatever, but if we could find that goodness, that love of humanity, and I could help to bring that focus, I would love that.
That, I mean, it's such a big thought to think, the universe wants to hear my song. And if I deny the universe of that, what are the ramifications of that? I mean, if people understood that, they wouldn't want to deny it. They would want to bring out the best in themselves so that they too could experience the beauty of their song.
I mean, we think about a symphony orchestra that plays something completely in harmony, and this incredible music emerges, or your favorite pop song, and all the different instruments and the singers and the background singers and everything. There's harmony, there's a unification through music that I think we don't find really anywhere else.
Yeah.
Because your passion, like about sound, I'm thinking that, I brought the bulls to Tonga. I went to swim with the whales, the humpback whales in Tonga. And I was just reflecting on, I ended up presenting in the church there and lots of kids. And then after the service, I sang, I played the bowls, and then I did a little workshop with the children and taught them carefully how to play the bowls, and just watching their face light up and asking them, do they want to make some sounds? Ooh, whatever they wanted to make with the bowl. I mean, just watching these kids, and I've done the same thing in Cambodia, so it doesn't matter that we don't speak the same language, but you get the bowls going and you get their voice going. It's like,
Yeah.
there's so much unity, and it's what brings us together, not what separates us. It's not what divides us. And like you said, it's the light. You see their souls turn on, and you just see, that one's the flute. Okay, that one's the cello. That one is the saxophone, whatever. But each one is unique.
Yeah.
And there's such a beauty in that. If there's such a beauty for me in that.
Mm-hmm. How do you see, the growing relationship between quantum physics and vibrational healing shaping the future of medicine and personal growth?
So much. I mean, and I'm working right now on a big project with actually with Minerva University, which has been voted the most innovative university in the world the last 3 years. We created a lab of music, health, and wellness in the brain. And it's bridging that gap, like between science and spirituality, because there's so much that science can explain, and there's so much that it can't explain. There's so much that we know with experiments in music, then there's so much we don't know, and then there's so much we want to know. So I feel like this, what we call quantum science, quantum physics, it has to do with a deep sense of spirituality. And my son has taught me, like, I can't deny that there is communication from the other side. I can't deny it. So here I am living in this classical body and going, okay. So I feel like this is very, very important. And we've just been talking, we're putting on a summit at the end of 2025 where scientists and musicians are really going to be in conversation, because the idea of science and spirituality really connecting more and more. And that's the same idea as our app, the app that Source Be Inspired. That's the same idea, is how do I bring scientists together with musicians and artists, and how do we have important conversations? Because this is the future of medicine for sure. And just like I played in the summer at a camp that was run by Victor Wooten, who's a 5-time Grammy Award-winning bass player, a dear friend who's also on the app. And everybody I was playing a certain set of bowls that was based on a pentatonic scale, and I had everybody tone together. And then one of the professors, who was also there to receive, he just said, "Jeralyn, I'm freaking out." He said, "I have Parkinson's and I'm not wobbling anymore. What is happening? What is happening here?" He said, "I've not experienced this." And it was simply the fact, I think, that we were all together. The bowls were, again, I can say to you, they were tuned to 528 hertz. They were a very unique set, but all of us were together in the room in unity, toning together, bowls, creating this celestial bridge, bowls together. And then he experiences that, and there were other people that experienced, other profound things too. But it's like, I feel like this whole field of music as medicine, I was privileged to speak and perform in Washington, D.C., the end of 2023 at a conference, Music as Medicine, with scientists, medical doctors, researchers, government officials, and musicians. And it's like, the more we come together and share and don't judge each other because I don't know what, the scientific formula is, but I can sure tell you what happens in the key of C when I have it tuned to 528 hertz or whatever, you know what I mean? So it's like, let's find the things that bring us together, because I think the goal is healing. Like, once again, if I had to live the rest of my life as I was in the first years, just crushed by grief, people shouldn't. I want to make sure that, the best to my ability, that I can help that people don't have to go through that alone, you know? And there's so much, like what I've experienced with the cancer patients. There's just so much that, we've talked about, that a pill won't pinpoint it. A pill couldn't get rid of my grief. It could help my mind from circulating the same thoughts, but that's not healing. Does that make sense? Healing means I got to go into those places and embrace the pain and love on that pain and see what that pain is teaching me. And I think there's so much potential in this field of music as medicine. I'm living it. As you can see, I'm so passionate about it. And I feel like I want to give that to the future generations.
And it's painless medicine. Absolutely painless.
Let's say it doesn't have side effects that other medications can have. I mean, painless, like when you go through the pain of stuff that you're feeling, it's painful. But there's something, again, back to that music is love in search of a word, but there's something so loving that you're being held so tenderly and nurtured as you go through the pain. It's not scary, and just watching so many young people that I know, go through really deep bouts of anxiety. And, there is a lot of pressure to take medication because so many people are taking it. But again, like, what are the side effects? And is what you have, can we cure that in a natural way? Can we empower you through sound and music to really know, I can heal? I can tune my human instrument so that I'm in harmony. Oh, I don't need something outside of myself. Again, it's nothing against medicines, because there are times we need that. We need that dearly, but I would love to help people feel empowered through music. That, I choose the music I like. Again, like, we've talked a lot. Dr. Levitin, who's a dear friend, a pioneer in neuroscience, has talked about it's the music that you love. And if you love reggae, then it's reggae. And if you love Beethoven, then it's Beethoven. It doesn't have to be only Baroque music or only, it could be, music with great beats to it. could be rap music. That's what lights you up. Then that's what makes your hair stand on end, right? So that's what you need to listen to. It's not a one size fits all.
On a big picture level, you talk about the bowls carrying the consciousness of the new earth. What do you believe this new earth consciousness invites us to remember about
Okay, so
us?
now you just gave me chills. Okay, so all down both my arms and down my legs, it was like, oh, you weren't singing anything and you weren't playing anything. It was just the tone of your instrument and the intent of the question you asked me. I got my hair stood on end.
Mhm.
I mean, so you say to me like, what is that? It, the first thing that arose to me when you were speaking those words was, it's love. It's love, it's love, it's love. That's what this higher consciousness is. But then, that's like, okay, woo, 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 just love. But I think I've learned with my son's passing what it truly means to embody that kind of love. So to know that I can't hug him, I can't have conversations in person, I can't feel him, I can't smell him. And yet there is such a profound sense of love, and I needed to embody that so I could really feel that, because that was my anchor. And I'm going to guess that the man who had the experience with the Parkinson's was that there was so much love in that space that he suddenly was anchored. And it was like, whoa. And uh, that he didn't shake, that went on the whole week at camp. And we spoke like 2 weeks after, and he said, okay, it's come back now. And we talked about things that he could do. Again, I'm not, we are starting to do the research with the bowls. I feel like that's really, really important. And that they're quartz. So again, those Tibetan Himalayan singing bowls have been around for hundreds of years, made of all different kinds of precious metals. Some of them are created on the full moon or whatever with ceremony and intention. But they're 25 years old, and they're quartz. It's a whole different sound. It's that sound that when I first heard them 18 years ago, like, I know the sound. I know it. Oh, it's so beautiful. Whoa. And you just feel like everything stands still for a moment. None of this chatter, chatter, chatter matters. None of my story matters. So, this higher, how did you name it? The higher consciousness of the bowls
Consciousness. Yeah, the consciousness.
has to do with this awareness of everything that we're talking about in this conversation, of how do we elevate to be this frequency of love, so that you're not filled with judgment, you're not filled with rage, you don't want to hurt others, you don't want to control, you're not, all the things that you find through music, this deep sense of inner peace and gratitude and service and love. And that's the higher consciousness to me. And there's something in the quartz. But then isn't that something that's also in the structure of our human system? Were
Yeah,
we born to that
yes, isn't it? In a sense, it's us.
and we forgot it?
Yeah,
So it feels like this sound is a reminder of what I first experienced. Like, it's a reminder, like, remember who you are.
yeah.
You're made of this. You're made of love. You're made of an energy that's filled with radiance and light.
Mm.
Well, let's live it, people. Like, we're human, so we're not going to be perfect in it. But
Yeah.
I feel like the bowls emanate, if we could distill it, it would come down to love.
You discuss awakening in the book not as an isolated event, but as an ongoing vibrational shift. And many people find vibrational shifts quite uncomfortable. We can see what's happening in the world and we are not very comfortable with it, but certain things have to happen in order for something new. But how do you think we can learn to trust the discomfort that often, precedes these vibrational shifts? Do you see music playing a role, the bowls playing a role there?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I'm struggling right now in my life with a situation that was very, very unexpected, and it's in a certain way it's frightening, and it feels very dark to me. And it's like, okay, okay, you got to just keep breathing and going inside and trusting that this discomfort is guiding you to the next level. Well, it's like, well, wait, no, I don't. I'd rather not do it that way. Can't there? Isn't there an easier way? And I recognize like part of me is still at this age, like just naive about things, just believing in, light and goodness. And of course, there wouldn't be any of where we are if we didn't have the challenges and the darkness and darkness and light belong together. So when we go through shifts that are really demanding and really hard, we also can really feel there's a deeper anchoring. There's a bigger expansion. There is a light at the end of the tunnel, but it's just like when we're in it and it's so uncomfortable, it's like, really? But we talk about the only way, you can't go around it. You've got to go in it and go through it. And that's what I recognized with my own grief. I knew that if I couldn't find the capacity to feel it, I would never be able to transform and heal it. On some level, I knew that. Like I couldn't run away from it because it was my life. My son was gone from this physical plane, and I had to be able to deal with that. And it was like, you don't wish that on anyone. So all these different changes that people go through, oof, again, yeah, I wish there was an easier path, but it's like, how do I ground when I was discussing like the deeper notes? How do I ground so that I am unwavering? I may wobble back and forth, but like what the Parkinson's man said, like he was like, I'm stable and then I'm not wobbling anymore. Like what's happening? We have to find that, and it's so personal for each of us. Again, with music, it's never going to be a one size fits all. It's never going to be take this, let's play you, Tchaikovsky, or let's play you, you are the sunshine of my life or whatever, and it's going to take it away. It's not that. It's asking us to explore who are you, where are your blockages, what's your soul's expression. It's empowering us in a way that I think nothing else does. Music, if we open our hearts to it, it will empower us so that we do have the strength to go through these times that you've just described, where it's just, I'm making a vibrational shift and it's really uncomfortable.
We don't have a lot of time, and I've still got loads and loads of questions to ask you, so you're going to have to come back. But, one of the things that I loved about your books, as I mentioned earlier, is the quotes. You think about people, putting affirmations on post-it notes and leaving them around the house. There are so many great quotes in your book that really speak straight to the heart, bypass. Love is not an emotion, but a resonance. The sound, the universe never stops singing. I mean, these, the truth, the simplicity of that takes us right back to, to a point of, it gets rid of all the crap around everything. And it's just, this is truth. And I love hearing truth. I think that's what makes some of the best books in the world, such big sellers, is because they're very simple, but they tell the truth. And I want to take all your quotes and stick them on post-its around my house. But we don't have much time left. I want to talk about your app because it is such a beautiful gift. Mm-hmm. Tell us what inspired that and what's in the app.
My son, I'm sitting with my mom and a couple of friends, and then I hear him, and it always comes in the right ear. Mom, we're going to do an app. I'm like, wait, what? Mom, we're going to do an app. And that's how it started. It was 4 years ago. It's been a good project, but once again, it's called Source Be Inspired. And the idea was kind of what this whole conversation has been about. The idea was, how do we bring people together where you go, what does a neuroscientist have to do with a pioneer in bioenergetics? And what do they have to do with, a Grammy award-winning musicians? And what do they have to do with an inventor? What is the commonality between all of us? And it's music. And so for me, the app is a place where you find meditations, where you learn about the science behind sound, because I think it's important. for all of us to know, well, what is constructive and destructive sound? What is that? What is the field of bioenergetics? What is that talking about? What does neuroscience say to this? I feel like these conversations, so the app, you get teaching videos where you learn different things like that. There's long meditations, so there's like an hour loop. There's lots of things with crystal bowls. There's some yoga, so that we also have embodiment in there. There's a couple of things for children, because I reminded myself of when Dylan was 7 and he was listening to the bowls and saying, "I love my tummy tickles and my sound, my sound blanket." So there's a beautiful meditation by an 8-year-old girl. I play bowls behind her, and it's a story that she wrote. So it's meant to be enjoyed by whoever, whatever, children, adults, teens.
And you've got some wonderful collaborators.
Yeah. There's, I think, 20 of us now on the app. Really well-known people in the world of science and spirituality. And Eileen McCusick does the tuning forks. Dr. Sue Morter is the bioenergetics. Dr. Leviton is the neuroscientist. Victor Wooten, the Grammy Award-winning musician. John Stewart Reed, who invented the Cymoscope. Jonathan Goldman, pioneer in sound healing. It's like they all said yes, and it's Jonavi Harrison. She's a beautiful kirtan singer, is on there. Kevin James is Australian kirtan singer. Major is a pop artist that went through healing himself from leukemia. He has some beautiful pieces on there. So it's like, yeah, it's the place of where we meet and where we are inspired, which hence the name Source, Be Inspired.
So we have the cards, the Oracle deck, we have the app, we have the book. What's next?
Music. This is a couple of pieces of music that we've done. So this Joy Reboot, you can find that both of the pieces. Pentatonic Visions is an album that's done with bowls and with other instruments. Joy Reboot is a remake of the Ninth Symphony of Beethoven in a modern way, also with different collaborators. Really fun. Londrell, who's a beautiful spiritual singer, he's on that too. And now I'm working on a new project of the album with classical melodies. Very excited about that. And just, again, no words in that one, just the voice, just vocalies, bowls, and other instruments. And then this summit of bringing together really scientists and musicians. And what do we have in common? And then I'm teaching and helping people curate their bowl sets. And working on another writing project. So there's never a dull moment here.
I'm sure. And you're going to give us a little video clip that we can append
Yes.
at the end of this interview so people can experience.
Yes.
themselves.
Yes, so that the sound is impeccable. That's important for me, that the sound is really good. And then people can choose to listen with headphones. It's one experience because it's important that we understand you don't just listen through your ears. You listen through every cell of you. But some people really like the headphones, so you can listen to it through headphones. You can put it on good speakers. And then we have a YouTube channel, Crystal Cadence, that there's a whole library of hundreds of free meditations and things for people to explore. But it's interesting, that question gets asked a lot. Do I use headphones or do I just let it come through speakers? Both are great. It'll give you a different experience. But remembering that music is something that's felt by every cell of us, and it's not just our ears that hear.
Yeah, as I can attest by all those hairs that stand on end, they're feeling it for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Jeralyn Glass, thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you'll come back and we can talk some more.
What wonderful questions you asked, and what a gorgeous human being you are. So thank you for having me.
Thank you. Before we close, let me leave you with this reflection. Sacred vibrations remind us that healing isn't something we chase. It's something we remember. Love isn't something we find. It's the song our souls have been singing all along. So as you move through your own journey, remember your voice matters. Your vibration matters. Your very being is a sacred sound, a note in the great song of awakening. For more information about Jeralyn Glass's events, experiences, books, including Sacred Vibrations, The Transformative Power of Crystalline Sound and Music, and her new app and her Oracle deck, visit JeralynGlass.com. That's it for this week. I'm Sandie Sedgbeer. I'll be back at the same time next week with another edition of Between Realms and Reason. Till then, it's goodbye from me, and thank you again to Jeralyn Glass.
If today's conversation sparked your curiosity, you'll love our other shows. The Synergy Sessions, where leading-edge thinkers collide in bold, unscripted dialogues that ignite new possibilities. Between Realms and Reason, where we journey into the mysterious consciousness, energy, and the hidden layers of reality, where science converges with spirit in ways you've never imagined. And the No BS Spiritual Book Club, where leading-edge new thought speakers, teachers, authors, and luminaries who've walked this path before you share the 10 books that had the biggest impact on their life journey. All 3 shows are available on YouTube, Spotify, Substack, and all major podcast platforms. For more information, visit sedgbeer.com. That's SEDGBEER.com.